Okay, welcome to Module 2. Hopefully things are going well, getting some practice, getting a feel for the flow for this course. Again, always reach out to us or your instructor if you have any questions. Okay, so Module 2, Overview of Autism Spectrum Disorder. Some of you might be pretty brand new to the autism community and world. Some of you may have a lot of experience. Maybe you even have a family member, brother, sister, son, or daughter on the spectrum. It's always good to go back and reacquaint ourselves with what autism spectrum disorder is. So Module 2 will be an overview, introducing us to what autism is. All right, so autism, by definition, is a group of complex neurological differences that affects how an individual takes in and responds to information in the world. It really can appear during infancy or childhood, or many people I know have been diagnosed as adults as well. So it doesn't necessarily just have to be children. The diagnostic criteria is found in what's called the DSM-5, or that's the Diagnostic Statistical Manual number 5. And it combines all of the previous diagnoses into autism spectrum disorder. So you probably remember Asperger's syndrome. You probably remember things like pervasive developmental disorder not otherwise specified, autism. Those kind of used to be all part of a different diagnostic label, but now they are all part of the autism spectrum disorder diagnostic label. DSM-5 now uses a level system, level 1, 2, and 3. So that new DSM-5 change happened in 2013. A common question we always get is, now does that mean somebody that had a diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome, now that diagnosis is no longer valid? That's not true at all. It's just that they're not giving new diagnostic labels anything but autism level 1, 2, or 3. So current data is somewhere right around 1 in 59 people in the United States. It affects tens of millions worldwide. Depending on what country you're from or region, those numbers tend to stay pretty constant. That data comes from the CDC prevalence study in 2018. Let's see, it tends to, on the surface anyways, seem to affect boys more than girls. Right now the diagnosis anyways is 5 times more common in boys than girls. But we do know that we're starting to learn more about how autism presents in girls and how the challenges differ, and maybe how diagnosing autism for a girl is different than, or a female is different from a male. And we're really starting to get more and more research in that area. It affects all racial, ethnic, religious, and socioeconomic groups. So really, this module is going to be about sitting and getting acquainted with autism again, looking at different diagnostic criteria and things like that, and also looking at some misconceptions and how we as a society tend to think we know everything that there is to know about autism, and how some of those misconceptions can actually be harmful. So checking ourselves, putting the brakes on to say, wait a minute, maybe I don't fully understand what autism is. We have better diagnostic awareness now. We have definitely better community awareness. And what we're really trying to push for now is more community acceptance, meaning autism is not a curse or a death sentence or something that we need to be tragically mourning about, but really just learning more about and becoming better at accepting and working together as a community. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Environmental factors may have increased, but the fact is there really is right now no set known cause of autism. All kinds of studies in all kinds of different arenas. That's not going to be the focus of our course. Our course is really going to be about, I'm supporting a student with autism. How can I get to know them better? And what is it about autism that I should understand to make me a better professional as I support them? So it is a spectrum disorder, meaning there are different levels to it, and varying degrees, but what you need to remember is that a person who we may mischaracterize as what we would maybe say severely impacted, it could be that a person who doesn't seem severely impacted, all of a sudden if an environmental thing changes, like a loud noise happens or a social event happens that's very stressful, or maybe a schedule change happens, autism can manifest very differently given the different moment or the different environment. So just because a person looks to your eyes one way doesn't necessarily mean that that's a clear indicator of how their autism impacts them. How many of you out there can feel pretty calm and relaxed, but as soon as one thing changes, you get maybe pretty upset or angry, or maybe you get very stressed out? Well, our friends with autism are no different. So just because we think that they're at a certain place on a spectrum does not mean that that's a static location. It changes moment to moment, variable to variable. So, but generally speaking, it will impact how a person interacts with others. It's going to probably affect how a person communicates. They may have a communication difference, which we're going to touch in much more deeply in a coming module. It could affect the number and types of activities they like. And we tended to look at those things as what we would call like fixations or obsessions. But really, it's just somebody has a deep and focused interest in a particular topic. And that there's nothing wrong with that, and that we as teachers can help embrace that and use that to help our teaching. So don't get hung up on if somebody's really into some one thing or a small tight-knit area of interest, that's necessarily a deficit. It's just that they happen to be hyper-focused on that. And there are ways that we as teachers can help them use that interest to make education more fun and engaging. Sensory information, definitely. The way a person processes the sensory world. Again, another module is going to look in depth at the sensory needs. But a person with autism definitely has some sensory differences that make living in the world different for them than it is for a person that is not on the autism spectrum. There is a phrase that has been used now for a decade or more, and it's a common quote that says, if you've met one person with autism, then you've met one person with autism. Meaning that just because you know one person and how they may present on the spectrum doesn't mean that you know how every single other person on the spectrum exists in this world. Everybody is unique. Everybody has their own strengths. Everybody has their own challenges. And try to break out of rigid thinking about autism. So your goal in this module, get familiar, dig around. If you didn't know a lot about autism, really spend some time digging into those handouts and learning more, maybe reading some additional websites. Check out the fun videos we have in this module, and then start to dig into the portfolio. How do you define autism? And start to think about maybe a student that you work with or that you know, and how we might use this course to better help them. Enjoy your time out there, and we'll see you real soon.